this being that was me, who I once called me, now belongs to another, and I do not recognize him, cannot accept him, he's neither my friend nor my brother, and I cannot hear for the din, and I do not know where I've been, no, I cannot hear for the din, I do not know where I've been. Life that was mine, well, I once called it mine, and it now belongs to a stranger. The thoughts that I once had, that I once believed bad, they were simply warning against this danger. Well, this chaos, it's driving me mad. This chaos, it's driving me insane. The chaos will return me to dust. The chaos will rewire my brain. Chaos. This song, actually, I wrote in two parts, you might say. I wrote the lyrics and I wrote the melody line, the vocal melody, in 2014 or 2015. I don't even remember. It may have been 2014 or 15, around that time. And I'm going to put the guitar down and I'm going to talk. It's actually part of my talk series. I'm Marc Lowe. Thank you for joining me here in my Tokyo apartment. Still, it's now what? September, early September. And I've been at home alone, basically, for, what? Over 2 months now, I guess. In Japanese, we call this jishuku. It's like, just because of obviously because of Corona, right? And my last videos, I was complaining about not having the opportunity to be vaccinated. I think my very last video, when I was talking in Japanese, I said, I'm getting my vaccine. Well, I'm vaccinated now fully. I had two shots of Pfizer in the right arm. I'm left-handed. I said, give it to me in the right. And basically no problems at all with it. I didn't even have a fever, nothing. But I'm working remotely at home now, so this summer, and I've just been at home alone and taking walks and doing music. Music has been keeping me sane, as usual. Music and these talks, and I said taking walks, and also not just these talks, but using an iPhone. Generally, I shoot video, and then I later, on my walks or whatever, and then later edit it together. This song, Chaos, recently I've released, you may have noticed on YouTube, a version. By the way, I'm drinking a little bit. So, drinking a bit of beer. I released a version of it on YouTube recently, with backing by Takeshi Goda Takeshi. He's a friend of mine from Tokyo who, in this case, he's playing the accordion and flute. They were obviously separate tracks he sent me, and I decided to combine them as backing with the acoustic guitar and vocals of a new recording of this song. I'm going to talk about this song, and I'm going to talk a little bit I decided today about, I guess you could say, my musical history, if you will, but I'm going to talk about Chaos, going to talk a bit about my history, going to talk about my influences. And I decide to do it in English, I maybe have to take some time to subtitle it in Japanese. It's a bit time consuming, but I'm gonna do it. It's juice, really, it's just juice. Anyway, Chaos was written in two parts, as I said. Basically, what I mean by that is, and this is the beginning of my musical history in Japan. Okay? Because I'll go back further, and I'm going to come back to Chaos, okay? I'm going to bring it back, and then I'm going to talk a bit about this. So, I started, my first instrument was the clarinet, and I was in second grade in elementary school. I wanted to play the saxophone, kind of like David Bowie. It's long before I knew who David Bowie was, but I wanted to play the saxophone. I thought the sax was cool. I kind of like jazz, it was cool. And I said, Mom, so my mom says, right, you want to play an instrument? Okay, you can play an instrument. What do you want to play? Because I wasn't into sports. So she wanted to do something for me, because I was a quiet, lonely, bookish kid who didn't have many friends. And so, okay, you can learn an instrument. I didn't like sports. And I want to play the sax. Okay, let me talk to some local teachers and find out about that. So she did, and unfortunately, maybe, or fortunately, I don't know. It all ended up okay. But the teacher with whom she consulted said, well, if you want to play the saxophone, you have to start with the clarinet because of the fingering, because the clarinet's more difficult. And once you learn the clarinet, it will be very easy to move to the sax. But if you do vice versa, it's no good. Vice versa, I never expressed an interest in clarinet, but I started learning it. And although, actually, to be honest, I'm impatient, right? I mentioned this before. So I quickly got frustrated, like reading the sheet music at the time, right? I was learning, and I remember I used to get frustrated and kick the stand over with my foot. It was like a flimsy stand, But actually, I did practice pretty much every day, and I got quite good. I was pretty good. I ended up being first chair, right, in the band, and then my clarinet teacher said, well, I'd like you to take a solo or piano duet, this kind of thing. I did Mozart. I did a lot of, for some reason I was doing a lot of Mozart, not by choice, just because that's what the teacher liked, maybe. Anyway, years went by. Finally, by the time I got to middle school, it was like, okay, you're ready for sax now after almost 6 years of clarinet. Okay, you want to play sax? Fine, go ahead. So I got my first alto sax or whatever. And the fingerings are different, like this damasareta in Japanese, right? It's like I was tricked, I was fooled, because the teacher had said, if you start with the clarinet, the sax will be easy. And actually, it was the opposite. I was so used to the clarinet, the fingerings, the weight. It's a straight, you hold like this, and the sax is like this. Totally different. Embouchure is similar to your mouthpiece, but everything else is different. So that was frustrating to me. And by that time, I wasn't so, into the sax anymore, But I ended up in the jazz band, reading again sheet music, which, by the way, I hate sheet music. I hate it, and I don't use it at all anymore. I'm free now of that. I don't need it. When I say I don't need it, I'm not dissing musicians who use it. It's great. It's a great tool, but I don't use it, even for covering songs. I do by ear. I've used a tablature on occasion, but I just don't. I just do by ear, mostly keyboard for covers. But so I got into the band, and the coolest thing in that band for me, and there was only one person doing this, right? With sax, you're like in a row with other people playing sax, right? Flute or whatever. The coolest thing was drums. I thought drums are cool. Wow. Drummers, just one person behind the kit making all this noise, beats, leading the entire band, right? The whole unit depends on the backbone of the drums. You could say drums and bass, but in this jazz band, it was like the drums were the things. The thing was the thing for me that, stood out and was cool. And so I said, Mom, because I'm still a kid, right? I'm living at home, right? Middle school, 6th grade or something. Mom, I want to play the drums. What? I want to play the drums. Is it okay? Can we? and she was pretty okay about it. And I quit clarinet and sax, both of them. I haven't touched either instrument since middle school, and started playing drums. And then from that time onward, things really changed, because I went from reading sheet music and playing this kind of Mozart and this kind of stuff to and melody, right? To beats and rhythms. And I did learn, drum. There's a kind of sheet music, right, with the X's and stuff, the beats, and I was using that at first. I did take lessons for years, actually, with. Actually, he was a jazz drummer. His roots, his based in jazz, and like he made me hold. If you're a drummer, like many rock drummers hold the sticks like this, which I do, by the way, now. But the left hand, he was making me hold the stick like this, the jazz style, like jazz drummers usually hold this way. And I never got used to it. Stuart Copeland, great drummer, I love him, from the Police. He does this even for rock, playing like this. It's cool, but it wasn't my thing. And so I ended up, basically becoming a rock drummer, but not a 4/4 time. I wasn't like the Ringo Starr type rock drummer, right? My influences, quickly, the first big one was probably John Bonham. I was actually in middle school. I was listening to like Queensryche and heavy metal bands, Ozzy Osbourne and stuff. Crazy Train was the first hard song for me. Right, this beat was like, I had to master this before my first rock band, right? Before they would let me into the band, I had to master this pattern. And once I did, after like a week or something, they're like, not really, I wasn't really good yet, but oh, okay, you can be our drummer. And from there, I ended up drumming for some years. Not anything serious, just playing in bands in middle school and high school, right? And we weren't even playing shows really, mainly just in someone's basement or garage or something. But that was how that started. It's juice. And then I grew my hair out. I was big into Led Zeppelin in high school, you see, and I mentioned, right, John Bonham became an influence. If you've watched, there's a video I recently put on YouTube, which is a recent video, just me in the studio playing a drum improvisation, and it's literally a drum improvisation. I just put the backing tracks on for a piece of mine called Exodus, which is I created in Logic, kind of dark ambient piece with no vocals, and there's a melody line in there that I played on the keyboard that sounds like a kind of, I don't know, like a flute or a koto or something, I don't remember, but I took that out, and otherwise it's the same, and I just played a improvised drum solo. I was just alone in the studio, the drums were there, I brought my sticks that day with that intention, and I filmed it, and I put this Exodus drum improvisation on YouTube. You can see it. It's a recent video on here. And at the end of that, if you watch through to the end, it's like 10 minutes or something, but you watch to the end, I put my sticks down and I start playing with my hands. That's a kind of John Bonham influence that to this day has stuck with me, and other things too. But in addition to John Bonham, as time went on, here's where King Crimson comes in. Bill Bruford became one of my favorite drummers, particularly the 80s Crimson, but even like Red, Lark's Tongues and Aspic. From that point on, I guess Bruford was the drummer, and then they did that trilogy, I guess 3 albums, and then in the 70s with Bruford, and then in the 80s, again, another 3 albums with Ballou and Levin and Fripp. And I love that stuff, the odd time signatures. I also liked Rush in high school. The Police, I mentioned Stuart Copeland. These drummers also influenced me. So I also, it's kind of like the hard, hitting John Bonham thing. And also he was, I think, actually a pretty nuanced drummer, but he was rock, he was heavy, like Keith Moon, right? Who wasn't as much an influence, and that combined with the kind of odd time signatures, quasi-jazz or fusion style drumming of Bruford and others, shaped my drum playing. And then senior year of high school, we had the senior band. We were the senior band, me, myself, and this guy Brendan, who played bass, and he actually was a guitarist who was playing bass for us because there was another guitar guy, Joey, and Joey, and he was a kind of rock guitar guy. And Brendan and I were actually closest friends. Anyway, in that unit, we did instrumental cover songs in between the senior show, the senior band. It was like little acts, all the high school students all did little plays or gags or whatever. Everyone did something different, and in between they wanted to have a band, so that was us, and I was the drummer. But the thing about that was I also sang for the first time in public, and I sang because I liked singing, and I had a high voice. I had a very high voice in high school, higher than now, even though I'm tenor. And I sang Zeppelin, actually. We did the instrumentals, we did some Zeppelin, I think, and we did The Police, and we did Rush, actually. I mentioned these bands, right? Those are my high school days. Those are the bands I liked at that time. And then I sang Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You from the first Zeppelin album, right, in 1969. Baby, 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 I'm gonna leave you. And then I sang real high, and I did kind of a long tone. And suddenly people were like, man, you can sing. I didn't know that, because I was known as a drummer in high school. I had long hair. And I was like a rock and roll, like the druggy rock and roll guy, except I didn't do drugs, and I didn't smoke, and I didn't drink or anything. I was really majime in Japanese, a really serious kid, But I loved music, which that hasn't changed. And then, so that was the first time I got a chance to sing in public. And then Brendan and I, the year after, I talked about this in another video. We did a home recording at his place with a 4-track of Ziggy Stardust. I became a David Bowie fan around that time, the end of high school, the beginning of my just having graduated, 1991. Around that time, actually, when Ryko Disc was reissuing the entire back catalog from the 70s up to Scary Monsters. And so we did that. And then... Anyway, there's going to be like a huge gap in this. I'm going to fast forward a bit. I'm not going to talk about every single thing, but then I'm just trying to think. In between. Well, one interesting thing in between that I've never really talked about this in a video before, or I've mentioned James Izzo. Okay, he was a friend of mine. He was born without hands. I did a tribute song to him, so I talked about him in that context. But we actually collaborated together. I played drums on an album of his, the first album he released of 2, officially. Abnormal Love. Jarbo of Swans sings a song on that album with James, 2 songs actually. And probably nobody knows this, probably nobody cares. I was the one who suggested to James that he contact her because I had seen her posting on her site that she was looking for a remixer. And at that time I didn't do electronic stuff remixes, or I would have done it myself. I would have contacted Ray. I was just a drummer and I could sing, but I said, James, you're a good remixer. He did electronic music, right? Why don't you contact her? And it worked out, and they actually collaborated on various things, and she is on that album. Anyway, I played drums on that album, and I did spoken word in Japanese, actually. I had just gotten married, I think, to my now ex-wife, Japanese woman, and it was her poem she had written in Japanese, and I did spoken word, she did spoken word, and that became a track on his album. The rest was me drumming. And we did one gig together, and I was as a drummer, okay? So that was another project I had done, and that was electronic stuff, which I really wanted to do, because in the 1990s, in the mid-90s, thanks to David Bowie's Outside, I talked about this in the David Bowie talk, I got into 9 Inch Nails, and then I got into industrial music and Skinny Puppy and all kinds of, some more undergroundish stuff, and Coil and Current 93, which is not really electronic, but underground sort of dark folk music and stuff. All the kind of, underground music, electronic music. Also, 9 Inch Nails, which was they were popular at the time, but it's a kind of electronic stuff. And so that was my first time doing anything electronica related, but I wasn't the one making the electronic music. I was just drumming, right? And then, now I'm going to really fast forward. Years in between, I didn't do music at all. I mean, I listened to music like constantly. But basically, for years, I was focused on writing fiction. And I still do. Sometimes I love writing. And by the way, I teach, and I teach literature as well. And I love writing literature and all that. And I've written quite a bit, actually, of fiction, and I've published bits of it. And if you go to my website, marclowemusic.com, right? M-A-R-C, lowemusic.com. There's also a page for my writing on there. You can actually read things that have been published online, although they're mostly older. But anyway, in the intervening years, I was focused on that, and I got a job in Japan after I went to Brown University as a Master of Fine Arts student in writing. And then I came to Japan in 2011, right after 3/11, the huge earthquake and the disaster in Fukushima. But anyway, Kyushu is in the south, that's in the north, and I got the job and I came and I ended up working in Fukuoka as a teacher professor of literature at first, and then just English for 8 years, and then I came to Tokyo. But anyway, my story starts in Fukuoka, basically. I mean, the recent years and the solo, stuff that I do now. The story begins in the very end of 2013, actually. A friend of mine, actually was a coworker, I won't go into detail, but became kind of friendly because both into music, different kinds of music, but I went to a year-end party in the end of 2013, and I met a guy who was a guitarist, basically rock guitarist, very good guitar player, and a nice guy too. Little rock and roll, little longish hair, very nice guy. And he came with a leather jacket and a photographer guy. He's kind of cool guy, right? My friend said, "Oh, he's so cool when he plays this kind of music. He's really, great musician, blah blah." And we just, introduced myself, talking, as you do to people, and obviously, connection with music. I wanted to talk. He wanted to, we hit it off basically. And hey, you want to jam? He was into Led Zeppelin, so I was like, okay, can you sing Led Zeppelin? Can you sing Stairway to Heaven? Yeah, I can sing Stairway to Heaven. And by the way, I was so into Zeppelin in the high school days that I remembered all the lyrics, so I just went up there and just winged it. I didn't have a lyric sheet. He was surprised by that and the fact that I could sing it well and I had a high voice and blah, blah. I sang Robert Plant in the shower for years, right? So, and I did the one thing in high school. So, that was my introduction to him. And then I really, at that point, I was just like, suddenly, it wasn't suddenly, it was like all this stuff building up inside me that I want to make music again. Because I'd been years not doing it, I sold my drums, got married, and was just, going to grad school and stuff, and I just wasn't doing music, just listening, always listening to music, Bowie and whatever. But so I really wanted to sing, mainly. I really wanted to sing. I'd been a drummer in high school, I wanted to sing. Because I loved singing, and I still do. And then I asked, I got in touch with my friend. I said, "Can you get me in touch with him?" And this person, he's so busy, and he's a pro, and blah, blah, blah. Don't bother him too much. I was like, and just ask him if, he would jam with me or do something, because it went pretty well, I thought, and we got along. So I mailed him through, I think, Messenger, Facebook, and he was kind of cool, cool. And, but he said, I don't have the time. I can't do it now. I'm doing various things. He ran a studio. That was his work, right? He also was a recording engineer. By the way, this links to my first band in Fukuoka. He put me in touch with a guitar player. I won't use names because maybe they don't want me to talk about them in this video. People who know me know my background will know who I'm talking about. But put me in touch with the guitar guy. And basically, he had played in pro bands in LA in the 1980s. He was pretty good. He was very good, actually. Very good. Kind of 80s style heavy metal rock guitarist. But also, he played acoustic. He played a 12-string acoustic. And he was really good. And wrote his own songs. He also sang. And but he was looking for a lead vocalist. And that was kind of perfect timing. And so I met him one night. I got in touch through the guy I had met at the year-end party, the guitarist, and this is another guitarist. He's an American guy, right? First guy was Japanese. He's an American guy. So he introduced me. This guy from California originally, living in Japan a long time, longer than me even. And he's older than me. And we hit it off. Went to the studio, tried out. He gave me demos so I could learn the original stuff, the lyrics and the melodies, and sing it my own way, right? and then went to the studio and it worked out. And then we became Chattering Man. And that name, this goes back to my story about James. By the way, I'm going to come back to chaos, okay? Very soon, actually. It's going to link up. So, you know, and I tried out, and unfortunately, it was like really a bad period. I think I had a rough throat or something. I just had a cold or something. It was really bad timing for me. And that would be kind of I don't know, what's the word? Portentous? I can't think of the word. I can't think of English. This kind of, you know, foreshadow kind of what would happen, because everyone in that band played so loud. I could never hear my voice when I was on stage. And I ended up messing up my vocal cords a number of times. And I ended up buying in-ear monitors, which are very expensive, so because I was worried about my tone, because I couldn't hear my voice. It was so loud, and they would never turn down. So that was an interesting experience, playing a really hard rock band, you know. But anyway, that was a cool band. It was fun. We got along. There were no really, for 2 years, we did that band, and we played live fairly frequently in Fukuoka, and we had sort of had a following. I mean, some people that would come to every show and stuff like that, and sort of managers and stuff. So it was fun, and you know, we made an album. We recorded an album. It was my first time recording an album at the guy's guitarist mainly at his home, and then mainly at his home for the vocals, and then the band, the other guys did in the studio with the guy who introduced me, right, at his studio. That's how that connects. And then so we did that, and then I started. He asked me from the very beginning, can you write music? Can you write a song? I remember this when I was being interviewed before the first trial, you know, just we're talking. And I was like, well, I've never done it before, but I suppose I could, you know. And I was like half lying, not lying, but like I didn't know. Just, yeah, I'll try it, you know, because I can write fiction. I can probably write lyrics, no problem. And then I just make a melody, right? So sure, yeah, why not? I didn't play guitar. I didn't play any instrument, piano, guitar at the time, keyboard. So, but I was like, sure, I'll figure it out. And I did. And how did I do that? I started by writing songs a cappella. And what I found was that I'd write the lyrics first, you know, kind of rhyming A-B chorus kind of thing, and then kind of standard rock A-B chorus kind of thing, bridge. And then I would just sing those lyrics in some melody that came into my head. Right? And then I'd record them, and then I'd send these demos to him. And like, this is the song. Can you do something with it? And he would arrange it, right? And there were 3 songs like that immediately he arranged, almost immediately, like within, you know, a number of weeks or whatever. And they went on to the first album, and those songs we performed, I think all of them actually, yeah, at the live shows. And I forgot something. Chattering Man, the name came from James, my friend that I mentioned before. This is why I brought him up. First part is the electronica thing. The second part is that he had written a song called The Chattering Man. And James actually, he died young. He died after I came to Japan, actually in 2011. So it was 3 years prior, I guess. By the time this band really started going, was 2014. Almost 3 years. And I liked the name Chattering Man, and I wanted to do something to remember James, and I told the guitarist I had this name in mind, and what do you think? And he chewed it, you know, he slept on it, right? He was the leader, he was the boss, and he said, yeah, I kind of like that name, let's do it. So it ended up being Chattering Man, and we recorded the album. My songs went on the 3 songs that he had arranged the guitar parts for, and you know, my vocal lines and lyrics that I had done a cappella, didn't play guitar, etc. And then we did the songs live. We were together 2 years. In the 2 years, 2014, 2015, until actually 2016, when I started my own band. I'm going to get to that. What did I want to say? The 2015 especially, I guess from 2014 onward, I wrote those 3 initial songs, but then I kept writing songs a cappella. I just kept going. Once I started, it was like couldn't stop, kind of like when I was writing fiction, you know. I just write a story and then I'd write another story. I wrote a lot. just how I am once I get going. And I got going, and I wrote like 15, 20 songs. I don't remember, a lot of songs in a very short span of time. And he couldn't keep up with it, right? I wanted to arrange stuff, but I was like, could you maybe arrange one or two? The three that went on the album were one song called Once, I think, and that song has disappeared. I mean, I don't perform it now at all or anything. And then there was Stupid Man, which actually I've done solo versions of that. I don't do it now anymore, but it was a kind of really heavy rock song in his arrangement. And then the other was Chattering, which like the Chattering Man, right? And years later, I took that song, because it was my song, right? I took the melody line from that, not his arrangement, because it was a very hard rock arrangement, but I redid it as Shattered Man. And actually this year I did a rearranged version of that's on my album Redux, which is a bunch of songs from the past, solo stuff that have been kind of remixed, remastered, rearranged. Better sound, better, I think, arrangements. Anyway, so Shattered Man, right? In the interim, there were two other songs that he arranged and we played live. They were never recorded with that band. And one was Phantom, which also is on Redux in my version, redone, kind of. And then the other was City of Masks, which I also revived some years later, solo. And that song is not on Redux, I think, but I think it's on last year's End Note, which I released on the very last day of last year. City of Masks, actually the lyrics came from a fiction I had written called City of Masks, which was the first short story I wrote when I came to Fukuoka in 2011, because I noticed lots of people were wearing masks in Japan. And obviously now with coronavirus, everyone's wearing masks, right? So from last year, right? So I decided to kind of revisit that last year, City of Masks, and kind of it had a new meaning to it, right? So new arrangement, and I did a video for it too at home, which is like now, self-shot video with footage from some things from the web, people wearing masks and stuff, the corona stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to kind of finish the Chattering Man story. So, because what happened was, this is how the Chattering Man story ends. I got tired of waiting for, we were friends and everything, but the guitarist wasn't arranging songs anymore. He just, after those five songs, right? The three initial and then the two after, we played those live. And the guitarist was, I think, just kind of not really interested in the band anymore. He just started to lose interest in, because we didn't have enough fans or whatever. And he was used to rock and roll and lots of people coming and parties and stuff. And maybe I was a little too avant-garde for that unit. I wore a mask. That's why City of Masks. I wore a Venetian half mask and I kind of danced around. It's pretty weird. When I look at it now, I laugh when I look at what I was doing then. But, I wanted to do something different, and I didn't have an instrument in my hand, right? So I was kind of jumping around with the mask and stuff. And anyway, he lost interest. He didn't arrange any of the new songs I'd written. I had a lot, right? All a cappella, and I couldn't arrange them myself because I couldn't play an instrument for that. I could play the drums, but right. So then I decided to buy my first acoustic guitar. That was 2015, July 2015. Actually, it was a day before my daughter's birthday. I'll never forget that. I went to interestingly, the music store. I had taught classes in the morning, my university. In the afternoon, I had some time. The bassist from that band, who also played acoustic guitar and did his own solo acoustic guitar voice, what they call hikigatari in Japan, solo himself. He said, "Oh, well, I'll come with you. I'll help you pick a guitar," because I knew nothing about guitars at the time. I knew nothing, not the first thing. So I bought my first guitar with him. It was a Yamaha, not this one. This is my second guitar, by the way. I'm not a guitar collector. This is my baby, and I've had this guitar since 2016, the year after. But 2015, I bought my first Yamaha, started practicing at home, started learning basic chords, took a few lessons, but mostly I was self-taught, using, learning the basic chords from, charts with the fingerings or YouTube or whatever. And then also, like I said, I took a few lessons with a really good, guy who was really good, He did flamenco guitar and all sorts of stuff. And he helped me to arrange my first songs that were a cappella, that I wanted to arrange for guitar. And he helped me to do that. But even before I did that, I started learning guitar, and I started just writing my first songs, like very, very, very soon. And where's my pick? I should have prepared a pick so I could, I think I have it. Hold on, I have to reach over this. I get the pick. I'm just gonna, I might as well do this, right? Because I've got the guitar here. I think my first song, right, that I ever wrote using the guitar. So this is Post Chaos. I haven't talked about Chaos yet. Chaos was one of the a cappella songs. That was my point. And that, I will get to that. Because actually this came before Chaos, the guitar version, right? Chaos, the a cappella version, had been written in around 2015. I didn't arrange it for guitar till 2017, after I'd learned to play arpeggios, right? Originally, I could only play with the pick, jaka, jaka, jaka. So, can I even remember? Yeah, so I had started practicing Hallelujah. Hallelujah starts with C, but anyway, I'm not going to talk about this Hallelujah, but Hallelujah had some chords in it that I kind of plucked and used for my first original song, More. This chord, right? And then, A minor. And then this became the first song. This is More. The more I see, that's what it is. So it went like this. The more I see, the more I hear. The more I dream becomes unclear, G. And the more I live, and the more I feel, back to A minor, the more I find, do not conceive. And that chord that I plucked from Hallelujah. And then this became my first song. And then after More, my second song on guitar, the song I still play to this day, or I haven't been playing it at all because I haven't been doing live shows, and I haven't revived this one this year, but a song that I often play when I do kind of solo guitar vocal shows or when I'm playing the guitar. It's Want. Originally it was like this, right? And then, as my guitar technique got better, became and I use this chord. People go, what is that? It's a chord that's used in flamenco, apparently. I just, I'm not using sheet music, so I'm just finding my own chords. I use weird chords. This was one of them, and I'm gonna get to the story of what happened when I started my first band. And Want, this was one song. It had this chord in it, and I think I used it in one or maybe even two other songs. I don't remember how many, but this chord, I used it a few times. In the beginning, I had limited sort of chords I could play, and I hadn't yet learned arpeggios or anything. And I started a band with another guitar guy. He used a lot of effectors and stuff, and he was a little more alternative music guy, right? Than the first guy in the first band, who was a hard rock guy, 80s rock, right? So, we didn't get along very well, actually. In the beginning, it was okay, but it quickly we had problems. But by then, I had added a bassist and a drummer, and we were a band, and we were called, I'm not going to say the name. Some people know it. I'm not going to say the name, because then people are going to look it up, and I don't want you to look it up and see the videos. But anyway, it was a kind of, let's just say, the name revolved around this reptilian thing I had seen on the day I bought my guitar, the day before my daughter's birthday. I bought the guitar with my bass player from my first band, the Yamaha, and that became the name of my band. I used the name of that reptilian thing. That's the hint, but I'm not going to give the name. And then it lasted less than a year. It was a disaster, you could say, because we just didn't get along, and it was a lot of sort of band politics things, meetings. We had to do meetings, and Mark's the leader, but actually, they would call me the leader, or one of the bass player would call me the leader, but then, the other members would all like vote against all of my ideas. They would all vote for things that I didn't agree with, and the arrangements, and all sorts of fights and problems. And it just didn't work out well. And that was my learning experience too. That, if you're going to form a band, you better be sure that you're really compatible with the people you're going to work with, especially, it was my band, right? It was originally my songs, and then the guitarist wanted to do his songs too, so fine, right? You got to make it democratic, and then all that stuff, and then all kinds of stuff, problems, and that's the A part, right? The first part. The second part is, I was emotionally, I guess you could say, immature, and just got too emotional over things, and it didn't end well. I ended up almost being kicked out of my own band. They broke up the band after there was a kind of problem, and then they reformed, the three of them, as an instrumental unit, which is what apparently the guitarist didn't want anyway. He wanted to be an instrumental band. He wanted to do an instrumental band. Just, he was talking about forming that with other members, and it ended up that he formed them with the people who were my band members, and the three of them were kind of like buddy, and I kind of got the boot. So that was hard for me. It was very hard for me. And but again, I was emotionally immature. I was partly at fault too. It's life experiences, right? And then that was the summer of 2016 when we broke up. It lasted less than a year because it started in 2016. And we played, a handful of shows. We had some fans and stuff, and it was okay. We did more of my songs. I played the guitar, and I played the Telecaster as well as the acoustic. Actually, I bought this guitar that year, and this has been my companion ever since. It's my main instrument, main guitar. I play the keyboards too. But anyway, so then this talk's going to be quite long, isn't it? Of course. So then, after the band broke up, I formed for a very, very short period of time. There was another bass player who was a friend of a friend who ran a live house, or worked at a live house that I was close with. And he was good, very good bass player. And he just, he wanted to chat with me. He wanted help with English, he said, but actually I think he wanted to talk about music, because that's what we ended up talking about. And he's like, I know you broke up, your band broke up. And I was doing, by that time I was actually doing solo shows already. I was doing, even when I was still with the band, I was doing solo shows with guitar, and then I started using drum machines and stuff. It was the very beginning of my solo career, actually. I started thinking about how can I perform solo without the band members, because there were so many problems there. But this bass player, said, I can help you out. And I had been actually still friendly, basically, with the drummer of that band. But he was also doing the other thing at the same time. He was kind of in the middle, actually. I feel sorry for that now when I think about it. But so the bass player joined us, this drummer and me, and we became a trio. This bass player also has a very strong personality, and from the beginning, boom, he wanted to control the band. He made the name, the image, and he was a pretty strong guy, And it didn't last very long, and actually, it wasn't that we didn't get into a fight or anything. Actually, he and I, with my band members, we had that problem, but actually the drummer and he didn't get along, and there was an incident, and it broke up, and that was it. And he's like, I'm leaving, and I'm done. Okay, but we had written a beautiful song together, really beautiful song for me to sing and to play on guitar. And it's actually thanks to this guy that's how he taught me arpeggios. That was my first time playing arpeggios, and that song I revisited this year, and it's on an album I wrote. An album I recorded called "The Sun Is Coming" this year, 2021, and so I revived it this year and I rearranged it. It's basically his original notes and chords, arpeggio. And from the beginning, it was my lyrics, my melody, and I changed the lyrics a bit this year, and I changed the arrangement a bit. I play it slower, and I added a kind of middle section, because I can play much better now than I could then. So we had that for 3 weeks. That broke up. Boom, it's gone. What am I going to do? Well, by this point, I'm starting to use, I've been using GarageBand okay, on the Mac to make my own recordings. And I started learning, now that, the drummer left, actually that broke up, then the drummer left, he was like, okay, I'm gone too. So now I'm like, literally, there's nobody to play with anymore. Just me. What am I going to do? I want to make music. I can do solo, just, play the acoustic and sing. And I was getting better at guitar, but I wasn't, I'm not a great guitarist. Even now, I'm not a guitarist, right? I'm a singer-songwriter. But so, what am I going to do? So, with GarageBand, I started to learn how to put drums into the mix and stuff. And then I figured out ways to get sort of bass type sounds and other type sounds so it would sound more composed. And then I realized, well, when 2017 came, because this is already the end of 2016, 2017 comes, I just decided I'm going to buy some kind of keyboard to input, bass lines or whatever. And also, of course, I had the interest in electronic music too, right, from the beginning. So I bought a mini Korg. I have one now. Actually, this is my second mini Korg because the one I bought broke. The first one broke. I bought actually an older model, but I've been using this for years, and it's fine. It's great. It's the same. You can do the same thing with it. Basically, anyway, and that was the start of, the electronic stuff, really. And although actually, my song Black Nail was originally programmed in GarageBand without a keyboard, weirdly, but I'm not going to go into detail about that. But in 2017, I actually rearranged Black Nail using the keyboard, piano, putting piano and bass and stuff, and making it more composed and more complex. And that's the version that you've all heard if you've heard it. There are different mixes of it, of course, many mixes actually, and that's also on this year's Redux, a new version. But anyway, so then we move into 2017, and I'm starting to develop as a solo artist. I'm starting to do electronic stuff, even longer compositions using the keyboard and stuff. The keyboard, I'm completely self-taught to this day. I just found that I could use it. I could make sounds with it and do stuff, and just start learning. But I wanted to improve the sound quality of my recordings because I didn't know how to master. And by this point, I started using Logic. Right, I went from GarageBand to Logic, and then which is the Pro version, right? You can do a lot more in that. I'm using that now still, and it's amazing, right? I love it. Anyway, so I was using Logic. I had the MIDI keyboard, and I ended up working with a guy, Fukuoka, who in 2017 said he would produce my work. That's another story. There were problems there too. By the way, notice I'm not mentioning any names. Okay, but that was about 3 weeks too, about as long as the band with that other bass player. 2016, 2017, it was like a series of just trouble with music-related people, I guess you could say. And I started to think I'm just a horrible person or something, but I don't think I am, but I just had a lot of problems. It was just really bad sort of pairings and just differences of opinions or whatever. Anyway, so thanks to him, though, just like thanks to the bass player, I learned arpeggios. Thanks to this guy, I learned more about Logic and electronic music and mixing and mastering. And I'm not going to go into detail what happened with that. But then I got out of that. He wasn't producing me after about 3 weeks. We did one show together, and then that was it. And then from that point on, really, you could say that's really the real start or whatever of Marc Lowe, the sole artist, when it comes to doing the electronic and stuff, because I could started learning how to really mix and master well, and even arrange too. My arrangements got more complex, started getting more complex. I was using the keyboard more and more, the guitar less and less actually at that point. And then there were some problems with the mastering levels and stuff. I learned that later. So my sound, obviously it was a learning process. But finally, then I ended up with some people that I got along with well. And to this day, are friends with and also have collaborated with one of them via remotely this year. Tana, blues guitarist, really good, a great player, very nice guy, sweet guy. Majime, he's teacher like me. I think he teaches younger kids though. But and he played mostly improv, which is another thing that I actually love doing improv. And right, like the way I read songs, right? It's like by ear and stuff. I don't use sheet music. I don't write everything out. In the beginning, I wrote all the lyrics out. Now I don't actually. These days, songs that I read, so improv or mostly, right? So my songwriting style has changed. I've gotten more improv, more experimental. I have some older songs I sometimes rearrange that are more A-B chorus, but anyway, so Tana and I did a unit. Another unit lasted a very short time. I won't talk about it. It wasn't good or bad. It just, there were some issues there. But then my buddy, a good friend, Joe Shotaro, we became buddies, really close, bass player. And then he joined with Tana and myself, and that became Laughing Moon in 2017. And from this point on, this is really like Marc Lowe history in my mind, you know. Laughing Moon was my the first unit I really enjoyed doing, and it really felt like it was my unit, if that makes sense. I don't mean like in the way that like, oh, I'm the boss, I control. It wasn't that. Actually, it's the opposite. You know, if people respect what I'm doing, I respect what they're doing. You know, it's not like play it this way and do it that way. I don't say that. I don't do that. Like, you know, how should I play this? I don't know. How do you feel? You know, play it and see, and let's try it. You know, or even improv. And that's like with Tana. He would just improv stuff over the top of my music, and it was great. It was cool, right? And then with Laughing Moon, we had the bass, and Joe's a bit more like, how can I say? He's not as much an improv guy. Although eventually we did actually improv together, and that was cool. But it's a bit different. But so Laughing Moon, unfortunately, didn't last that long. I mean, there was no falling out at all. We're the three of us. All three of us are still like friends. I mean, we're living in different places, and I don't think Joe and Tana are communicating these days necessarily. But you know, if we got together again last year, 2020, for my birthday in Fukuoka. We did a live show together. We had a reunion actually, so we're all buddies still, and we can make music together. I feel anytime. Like if tomorrow they called me up, want to go to the studio? Yeah, I mean we have Corona now, but yeah, sure, you know, it'd be fun. It'd be different than the last time, but it would be fun. It'd be cool. So Laughing Moon, and then yeah, it kind of Tana had to get out because he was too busy with work or whatever, and then Joe and I continued with This Dark Shroud throughout 2019 was the main. So really, I'm really fast forwarding, right? What happened in 2018? This is how I became sort of involved in doing the music that I do now, and now it's kind of like this year, 2021, I've been using the acoustic a lot more. I've been experimenting a lot more with it because my main style up until this year, and certainly before Corona, when I was playing live, mostly use the keyboard. I was keyboardist, right? I'm not a pianist or anything, but you know, practice the parts, original songs mostly, and use a backing tracks that I programmed in Logic because I'm solo now, right? And mainly I'm solo now, and that was the thing. But this year I'm actually improvising on the guitar more and arpeggio stuff, and I just started experimenting with using backing tracks and the acoustic. I've done it before in the past, but they were like songs that were set. Now there's like I'm doing with improv and using effectors on the guitar and stuff. And Inner States of Mind, another very, very recent in-studio video from the same session. I played the drums with Exodus, which I mentioned earlier. That's this style. It's a new style I'm developing. I can't do live shows right now because of Corona, but that's what I want to do. And using video. That's another thing that I'm very, very involved in video work these past years. That's almost like I want to save that for another talk. I want to talk about my video work in another talk that deserves its own space. I just recorded the Exodus, right, with the drums, and I made an album from that, kind of a live in studio album using the backing tracks and Logic and working with the sound on it, so it sounds pretty decent. And one remix, and then this brings me right back to the beginning. This is beautiful symmetry. I love it. Full circle. Chaos. I did a new version of Chaos this year. It's the last thing I've recorded actually very recently, and with Takeshi Goda, as I mentioned, his accordion flute. I had the samples from him. I ended up doing that, and then I did a video for that. It's all self-shot stuff I edited together, and then I put that. I was going to put that on Exodus, but actually, Exodus is on Bandcamp right now. Chaos is not on it. I recorded it after, but I'm thinking when I release it to streaming services, I might put the new version of Chaos on there. I'm not sure yet. I might put it somewhere else. We'll see, because maybe I'll start a new project soon. I don't know. And I'm going to end here. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed. It's just fun doing this. You could say I'm alone at home talking to myself, but no, I'm not, because I'm going to broadcast this to you guys, and someone will watch it, I guess, right? Thanks very much. I enjoyed this hour and a half just talking about stuff. So, all right. See you next time. Cheers. Take care and be safe during this never-ending pandemic. Get your vaccine. Signing off. Thank you. Marc Lowe.
This chaos is driving me insane. This chaos will turn me into dust. This chaos will rewire my brain. World is an illusion, or so the Buddha said. The world should be ignored, for soon we'll all be dead. Don't fall into nihil. Don't fall into the void. Your life is worth saving. Don't let it be destroyed. No, no. Well, this being that was me, why called me, it now belongs to another. And I do not recognize him, cannot accept him. He's neither my friend nor my brother. I cannot hear for the dim. I do not know where I've been. I cannot hear for the den. I do not know where